Hello everyone, in this video I want to show you how to build this website in React using style components. This is just a simple landing page, so let me show you the website first. This is a hero section and we have this cool hover animations on our buttons, and if we scroll down we see our feature section, and then we go down as well. We have this content section that is being animated whenever we scroll in view of this content section. As you can see, it's being animated, and then we still have this button animations. We have a carousel over here, and we can just scroll through this carousel using this button, or we can just drag and drop like that. Next we have a footer section, and to make this website feel complete, I have also added the pricing page, just a simple pricing page, and a sign up form. And the final thing I have done is making this website responsive. So if I click here, and we can view this in iPhone 5 for example, or iPhone 10, and if we scroll down we can see that this is still well animated, everything looks neat and responsive. We can still see this carousel here, and we can press this button to view the next page. We can still see the footer, and we can use the navbar and move to pricing section, for example. Pricing section. And yeah, that's it. So if you want to know how to build this website, please stay tuned, and let's get started. Hey, before we start building this website, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, me. Making the website, recording a video and editing it took me a lot of time and effort, so I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and leave likes and comments below. Now to start off, go to your terminal and write npx create react app and the folder name you want to create it in. So now I want to clean up the project structure by removing some files and unnecessary code. I'm going to remove logo.svg, index.css, app.css, test file, that and that. So now I should only have App.js and Index.js. In Index.js we're using web vitals, so we're going to remove them too here, and like that. So now that should be fine. Now let's just write something in our in our app file and run yarn start to see what the app actually looks like. Now I get an error saying that I need to import React, so I'm just gonna quickly do that. So before I continue, I need to install some necessary dependencies for this project. The first one is Frame Emotion. It's going to be responsible for most of the animations in the website. Next I want to install React Icons. That's quite self-explanatory. React Intersection Observer. That's going to replace my window scroll listener. And then React Router DOM for being able to switch between pages. I want to have React Slick. This will be responsible for my carousel on the page, and style components, which is essentially how we're going to style most of our components. Okay, I'm gonna save that and run npm install. My code will have this structure. I will have 3 folders: components, pages and data, and I will also have one file called global styles.js. Now inside the global styles I will have several overall style components that will be used throughout the whole project. So I'm gonna import style components, and I also want to import create global style. Now I'm going to create global style. Essentially in CSS it would mean that, like a star, meaning every single element in HTML, but for style components it will look like that. And then essentially I just want to have margin 0 for everything, padding 0 for everything, box sizing border box, and font family is Montserrat. Now I want to create some style components that will be accessed globally throughout the whole project. So one of them will be container that will store all of my necessary components. Main heading is just going to be on my landing page, a heading for some smaller headings, a text wrapper for all of my text inside the website, section for my sections in the landing page, for my row and column where it's basically going to be display flex row and display flex column and just a button. So now I'm going to style them. Now I would like to explain this claim thing. Essentially my font size for the main heading will be 6 view width, but it will not go over 4.5 rem and it will not go less than 2.3 rem. So I'm gonna make it more or less adaptable to the screen size. Now another thing I need to point out here is this syntax. Basically, style components are still components, and essentially this whole thing is a string. However, in JavaScript syntax, whenever you surround something with these quotation marks, you can write something like that and it will be a vanilla JavaScript basically, and you can write a single statement. For example, in here I want to console log something. Essentially, what this syntax does is it's creating, it's using vanilla JavaScript in here, and then it's creating a functional component, and in this functional component we'll pass in prop margin, and then I'll check if margin is actually been passed. If margin has been passed, we're going to use the margin, and if it's not, we're going to just leave it as nothing. However, sometimes I'm going to use a different way. For example, I want the color to be constantly here, so it's going to be either this blue color or this white color, depending on whether I have passed inverse or not. So before I continue, I just want to say how I'm going to have this hover effect on a button. Essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to create the before element on this button, and it's going to have a position absolute. That's why this button must have a position relative, which I didn't add. And then essentially it's going to have a height of 0. It's going to be somewhere in the middle, so I'm going to put it top to left, 50% left, 50%, and I'm going to translate it 50% of its original width and height. So I'm going to, whenever I hover over it, I'm going to increase the height by 500%. That's how I'm going to have this hover effect. As for my pages, I will only have 3 pages overall: home page, pricing page, and a sign up page. So I'm going to create them right now. I will have quite a bit of components. I'm going to store them in folders. So first will be carousel. Then I want to have a content component, features, footer, form for my sign up page, hero component, Navbar, and pricing. All of them will be also exported from index.js file. So what I want to do now is to add some text to my pages. I'm just going to add here home, pricing, and sign up. Save all of that and go to App.js. For App.js I want to use global styles, home, router, navbar, sign up page, and a pricing page. Alright, so now I'm going to modify my app component. I'm going to create a router that will wrap all of my components, and inside the router I want to have a global style that will be wrapped as well, and it shows me the error, and I guess that's because I haven't exported my global style. So let me come here and export default global style. Essentially, by defining global style in here, it will make sure that all of the components within router will have global style, which is that. Now I want to have a switch. Inside the switch I'm going to have 3 different routes for home, sign up and pricing. Okay, let's take a look at the app right now. I have a home page, and if I go to sign up, it shows me sign up, and then pricing shows me pricing. Okay, the router works. Now I'm going to modify the home page. The home page will have 4 components used in it: hero, features, content, and carousel. I'm going to create a file called hero.js and herostyles.js. So for my hero section, I'm going to have several components. I'm going to use a link, a button from the global styles, a container, a main heading, and some style components that I will define later inside the hero styles. Now I'm going to use all of them in here. Everything will be wrapped inside the hero section. And inside the hero section I want to have a hero video, a container that will store my main heading, a hero text, and a button wrapper with the link to sign up page, and another button that will just be not having any events, sorry, on click listeners. So for this project I'm going to use a few assets like images and videos. You can find them in my GitHub account, and I will have also attached it in the description below. So I'm going to have my source for the video as assets mp4, and now I just need to define my style components. I'm going to import style components and button from global styles and define the components. So the first one will be hero section, and then I'll have a hero video, essentially all of the components that I have imported from here. Okay, essentially I finished my style components for hero section, except for one thing, is a button. This syntax means that I'm going to use a hero button, but I'm going to inherit all the properties from button, which I have imported from global styles. So I am going to inherit them and override properties like color and before and before hover. Essentially what I did here is just overriding the colors to be black and white, and initially it will have height of 500, and when I hover over it the height will go back to 0. I will show you once we render and can see it on the website. Now what I want to do is to go to my home page and import my hero section, and it's already imported. I don't need that. Okay, let's nice. Now we can see that we have a main heading, some text, buttons, and you can see this hover animation where I hover over it and it fills up the button with 500% of height, and in here the height is already 500%, and when I hover over it it's now going to become 0%. Now let me just fix the few padding issues and the font. My global styles, I have added padding as 1020 pixels. I just need to add pixels to my 10 number. And there you go, it works now. Now what I want to do is to go to Google Fonts and import some Google Fonts. So now I'm on a Google Fonts page and I want to select a few fonts I want to have for my project. Number one will be regular 400. Then I want to have a regular 500. Sorry, medium 500. Semi-bold and bold italics and regular italic. I'm just gonna copy that and paste it into my public folder index.html. Scroll up here. I'm just gonna paste it right here. Now I'm gonna come here and restart. Yeah, now I have a monsterite font. Now some of you might have noticed, but the video in the background is not playing. That's because I need to add autoplay and mute it to the video player here. Now I'm going to work on a Navbar component, so I'm just gonna quickly write RC to create the component, and I'm gonna import fat times from React icons, CG menu from React icons as well, and icon context to be able to add values, sizes and color to the icons. Then I'm gonna need these style components from my navbar.styles, and then use location, use history from React Router DOM, and that's it so far. In my GitHub repository you can also find the folder data, which will store all the data for my components. For example, in here I will have navbar data, which stores all the data for my navbar. So if I go back to navbar.js, I can import this data from navbar data. Now I'm just going to return the correct JSX. So this is essentially the structure for Navbar.js. Now I just need to add some JavaScript to make it functional. First, what I need to do is to add a use state for my mobile menu. So I'm gonna just add show and set show. And then I also want to use use history and use location from React Router DOM. Now I need to add a few functions. For example, when I click on a mobile menu, or when I want to close it, or if I want to scroll to one of the sections on a landing page. So for clicking mobile menu, I'm just gonna add a simple handle click. Now I want to add a function to close my mobile menu, and I want to check if my current location is in the home on a home page, so that if I'm on a home page I can just scroll to one of the sections of the ID. If I'm not on a home page, I will just redirect my history into wherever the user clicked. This scroll to function will just scroll me to the section on my landing page. It's quite a simple vanilla JavaScript. All I need to do is to get the element by ID and just scroll it into view with smooth behavior. Now I just need to add these functions to my JSX over here. First of all, I want to give a color to my icons from React icons. I can do it in my icon context provider by adding value and color to FFF, which is white. Then in my nav logo, whenever someone clicks on it, I want them to be redirected to my home page, and for my mobile icon, I want them to be on click to handle click. Now basically what's going to happen is this show prop will display the nav items if the screen is bigger than a certain width, for example 900 pixels. Otherwise it will just make them disappear and they will only be seen through mobile menu. Then I also want to add on-click function over here, which will close a mobile menu whenever I click on one of the menus. So on-click. Alright, so now I just need to add styles to my navbar.styles. My navbar styles.js will just have 3 basic imports, a container and a link from React Router DOM, and obviously styled from style components. Now I just need to create several style components, which are those ones. So these are the styles for my navbar styles.js. It's just one thing I want to notice. Originally navbar has a certain margin which makes this video go down by 80 pixels and have this white background. So in order to fix that, I just need to change my margin bottom to minus 80 pixels, which would not push my hero section down. Another thing is nav menu. So in here you can see that I'm passing a property show in my nav menu. Basically what it does is whenever I have this property on, when the width is 960 pixels or less, it will show nav menu or no. I will show you this on a website real soon. Now I just need to add the navbar into my App.js. So now I'm going to see whether that works, and that doesn't work because something was wrong with the image component. Yeah, so I found the issue. Apparently this is nav icon, and I accidentally added delta between nav icon tags. I cannot do this because nav icon is an image element from HTML. So I'll just make it a self-closing tag and add delta right after that. So I think right now it should work, yes. And if I restart, no errors showing up. So essentially, whenever I try to go less than 960 pixels, this nav menu will show up, and when I click on it, these nav elements will show up as well. This navbar styles, this is why it's happening. Basically, whenever it goes less than 960 pixels, it's gonna check whether there's a property show. If there's a property show, make it opacity 1 and visible. If there's no, just hide all of the navbar elements. Now I'm gonna start working on a features section. Basically, in this section, I'm going to create a functional component as well, and I'm going to use a container and a section from global styles and a features data from my data folder. Essentially, this section will not have anything super fancy. It's just going to be a simple JavaScript and HTML. Essentially, there's nothing too fancy here. You can see that I'm just writing a simple JSX. I'm using a section from global styles, and this section has a small padding of 510 pixels, position relative, inverse, and ID is about. Essentially, you can see that all of these props are being passed into my global styles section over here. Now, you can also notice that I have some width parameters such as initial and animate. This is used for my frame of motion, when I'm going to write styles for feature section, I'm going to explain this to you. But long story short, essentially for my features column, I will have initial property of opacity 0 and Y position of 40 pixels, which means it's going to be below by 40. And whenever it's going to be animated, each animated position will be 0, and then it's going to be having an opacity of 1, and the duration will be 0.5 plus the index multiplied by 0.1, which means every single feature of this block will be animated separately one by one. Now let's start with the style components. So now you can see here that I'm using motion from frame emotion. Essentially, whenever you're using style components and motion from frame emotion, every time you want to wrap something and animate, you need to give them appropriate. You need to pass them as motion.div. Essentially, whenever I pass motion.div into this feature column, I will be able to pass properties like initial, animate, and transition. If you want to find out more about frame emotion, I'll leave the link in the description below. So for the content, I'm going to need a React use effect, a container, and a section from global styles, and then these style components. Also, I'm going to use a use in view from React intersection observer and use animation from frame emotion. This is going to help me to animate my components whenever they are being in the viewport of the browser. Now I'm just going to add some logic to this component. First of all, I'm going to add initial, transition, and animation properties, and then I want to add a ref use in view property. Essentially what this is going to do is to notify us whenever the animation is in view, and when it's in view, we're going to animate it inside the use effect. So yeah, just one more thing I forgot to tell you is that for this to work properly, I need to pass in a reference to my section so that it knows which component to monitor. Now, some people might be wondering why we're not using a window scroll listener. That's because window scroll listener is being triggered like thousands of times whenever you scroll your browser. However, this is only being triggered once whenever you scroll into view and out of the view. That's it. Now I'm going to go with content styles.js and get back to you in a second. So essentially, I have finished my content styles.js. A few things I wanted to know: that this reverse property is just basically going to reverse my order for my content section. So if here, for example, I go with text and then image, if I go with the reverse, it's going to be reversed. It's going to be image first and then text. Another thing I have also passed in a lot is inverse. Essentially, if inverse is passed, everything is going to be blue and the background is going to be white, and otherwise if inverse is not passed, everything is going to be white. Okay, so that's it for the content styles.js. Now I'm just going to add those into my home section. So if I go to my home section, and in here I'm actually going to import hero 1, hero 2 and hero 3 from data hero data. And then I'm going to add my content and pass in props hero 1, hero 2 and hero 3. I have made one error here. I just need to add dot and slash / so that it can import my style components. And if I go back to my browser, and we can see here that the text is actually being loaded, but for some reason it's in white. I might have made a mistake somewhere here. So if I go to my description, I need to pass inverse property, I guess. So inverse property has passed into my heading here, and into my subtitle here. And if I restart, yeah, now it shows up. It's being animated, and you can see it's being animated as I'm scrolling into it. It's not being animated whenever I load the page. It's really important to note as well. So my content section has been finished. Now I'm going to move on into my carousel. For my carousel, I am actually going to start with my style components rather than starting with the component carousel itself. That's because I'm going to use an external library called React Slick, and I'm going to inherit React Slick component into my style components. So here you can see how I have imported slider from React Slick. It's going to be responsible for my slider carousel component basically. And here I'm just going to create my own style component called review slider, and it's going to inherit all the properties from the slider. I want this width to be 100%. That's actually important to add that, because otherwise it's going to be real messed up. And slider component also has some class names like slick drag, slick slide, and slick list. If you want to find more about it, you can just Google it. It's not that difficult. So now I'm just going to start with my carousel component here. So now I'm going to import some icons from React Icons. Also, I want to import icon context to be able to style those icons, data from carousel data, and also slider settings. It's also considered as data. Then I'm going to import raw, a heading, section, and text wrapper from global styles, and style components from carousel styles. In my carousel logic, I'm just going to add a use state for slider reference. Essentially what it's going to do is to get a reference for the slider, review slider, and I will be able to access methods inside the slider. So I can access methods to be able to drag the slider to the right or to the left. So essentially my carousel has been finished. Here I'm using a section from global styles, and you're probably getting the hang of it. I'm passing in properties like margin, max width, and padding. I'm just using a simple row and adding my justify and margin and wrap properties. Yeah. One more thing as well, in here I'm passing my slider settings, which I'm getting from my slider settings carousel data, and they are being stored in here. And my slider settings are basically, I want no errors to be seen, I want the 3 slides per show, don't want them to be focused while I'm selecting them, and I also wanted this to be responsive, so whenever it gets to less than 1280 pixels, it's going to have two slides, and if it's going to be less than 900 pixels, it's going to show only 1 slide. Another thing is I'm passing in a reference as a set slider ref, so this way I can access slider ref, and I can access its properties such as click previous, slick previous, and slick next. So whenever I click on these icons, I will be able to actually impact my carousel. Now let me import it in my home.js and use it. So I have added my carousel into my home.js, and if I go back to my website, you can already see it's there. I'm going to restart it just in case, and then we can see that it's actually working and it's being responsive if I try to make it bigger or I try to make it smaller to 1 card, and we can still drag it. We can use our mouse as well, and yeah, that's it. So now I'm going to quickly finish up my sign up form and the pricing section. So I have added my form.js. Essentially that's nothing too complicated. It's just a simple form, my form styles. There's just one thing I want to point out is that extra file validate form. Essentially I'm going to use it for my form validation. Whenever I pass an email, I want to know that this email is actually a valid email, and whenever the password is passed, I want to know that the passwords are matching, the confirming password, and that its length is more than 6 characters. Another thing is I have also created a bunch of use states for every single property in this form. My name, email, password, confirm password, error, and success. Whenever the handle submit has validated the form, I'm either going to return the error and set everything to null, or return the error and basically keep everything, or return it as a successful function and say that application was submitted. Yeah, essentially that's it. For my pricing section it's even easier. That's just simple JSX. There's nothing fancy here, and this simple style components here. You can obviously go to my GitHub account and just clone my repository and see for yourself, try to experiment, maybe add something more, maybe make it more functional. I have also added a simple footer for my website, and I'm going to add it to App.js, and after the switch I'm just going to add footer. And at this point the website should be finished. Let's check how it works. Restart. You can see that the video is running. If I scroll down, we can see the feature section here, and if I scroll down here we can see that it's being animated as I'm loading it. This section as well, and this section as well. We can see a carousel. Scroll to the right, drag it to the right. If we scroll down we can see a footer section. We can scroll back up, try to click on about. It's going to drag us down to our feature section, and we can scroll down as well. We can click on a pricing section. There's nothing too fancy, just a few simple cards and hover effects. We can click on a contact section. Just a simple form. I didn't want to style it too fancy, but I just add some names, an email, and a password. And here we can see that the email is incorrect, so I'm going to try to do something cool here, and it shows me that the passwords don't match. And then I'm gonna try that, and application was submitted. Obviously it's not connected to a backend, so you're more than welcome to connect it to a backend and actually try to make it a full stack application if you want to. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Please leave like buttons and subscribe to my channel and comments, and just do some activity on this video. You can even do dislikes. Actually I'm kidding, don't do dislikes. Bye.